Okay, so good morning to the closing community. Super excited about today. I've been just really looking forward to this session because both of these organizations have been longtime friends of Innovate, Educate, and the Close It Summit. So thank you, Road Trip Nation and National Association of Workforce Boards for bringing together this really informative and going to be fun session on the future of workforce development. I'm just going to immediately turn this over to Jenny E. with Road Trip Nation to kick it off. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Jamae. Thank you so much. And hi, Close It community. Welcome to Hub 6, the future of workforce development. Like Jamae said, presented to you by Roadtrip Nation and the National Association of Workforce Boards. My name is Jenny, and I work here on the events team at Roadtrip Nation. We're an educational nonprofit with the goal of helping people find fulfilling careers that are connected to their interests. So, to tell you a little bit more about us, I'd like to introduce Roadtrip Nation CEO Mike Mariner. Take it away, Mike.
Thanks, Jenny. Good to see everyone. Road Trip Nation, as some of you may know, is we're one part media-based nonprofit and one part workforce development nonprofit. The media side is probably what most people know of through our PBS series and all of our media-based work. But what most people may not know of is that, one of our real passions as a nonprofit is the workforce development side of what we do, which is anchored by a database of over 8,000 media assets. We know that we can't put every youth in America on a motorhome to go across America, especially during a pandemic, of course. But we do, believe passionately that if there's one thing we've learned over 15 years of doing Road Trip Nation now, it's that youth need to see people like them in a variety of careers that represent the future of work. And so Road Trip Nation, we have doubled down on the virtual offerings of Road Trip Nation in the last year and trying to get our stories of resiliency to youth who need it the most. And one of the things we're most excited about today is that a thing that we've been diving into deeper as well is really amplifying youth voice. And especially in this time of COVID, if we've learned anything, it's the importance of listening and amplifying youth voice, especially as systems are being redesigned. So that's part of what one of the spirits of what we hope to get out of today is amplifying 3 of our favorite youth in Road Trip Nation. And you'll learn more about that later. So
Thanks, Mike. So we're proud to be partnering with NAWB on this panel, and to give you an overview of their work is President Ron Painter.
All
Go
right,
ahead,
thanks,
Ron.
Jenny. It is, we are happy to be here. NAWB, or the National Association of Workforce Boards, represents the nation's over 500 local business-led workforce boards across the US and the territories. We do that as most national organizations by advocating strongly for the role of local boards to do things like look at their own labor market. What are the skills? What are the occupations that are critical? And then the ability to impact the number of individuals who are attaining the credentials necessary to enter those. We share best practices. We share common interests, and we share successes. And certainly, you're getting an opportunity to have 2 of our finest on the event today. Mike Temple out of Houston and Karen Norrington Reeves out of my second hometown of Chicago. I'm enormously proud of both of them and enormously proud of the work. We're also at the National Association proud to partner with Jamae and all of her crew as we continue to discover and explore what is happening to the world of work. We're also really, really excited to partner with Road Trip Nation. Last year, we did a thing when we could before the time of going out across 8 locations in America to listen to what was happening at the local level around their optimism about the future of work, what they were fearful about the future of work, and a conversation with business, education, and workforce boards. We're happy to be thinking and planning with Road Trip Nation to do that again when we can once again get out on the road. So if you're joining us from a location and you'd like the 2 of us to come join you, please let us know at NAWB@nawb.org. I'm really excited about today's conversation. I think that it's so important for us, as Mike mentioned, to listen, to understand the experience that people have when they think about workforce development, better ways that we can bring that experience to them, to their thought process around what kind of careers am I going to pursue, where am I going to go, and what's happening. So again, on behalf of the National Association of Workforce Boards, our board of directors, our staff, and the hundreds of local workforce boards who are our members, we appreciate today and we're looking forward to the conversation. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you so much, Ron. And we're excited to have you here. I'm excited to hear a little bit more from you a little later. And like Ron mentioned, later today, we're going to be joined by special guest panelist Karen Norrington Reeves, CEO of the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, and Mike Temple, director of the Gulf Coast Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. And Gulf Coast Workforce Board and Workforce Solutions. Sorry, that's such a mouthful. We're so excited to talk to those two and hear about how their workforce boards have been innovating new ways to connect with their communities. But first, we want to talk a little bit about a very special project that we've been working on here at Roadtrip Nation. Last year, fueled by AT&T, we sent 3 young people from workforce development programs across the country on a road trip to talk to professionals about the challenges of moving forward in their careers. We filmed this transformative journey and turned it into a documentary series called To Be Determined. Our series aims to inspire anyone out there who's looking to develop new skills and find fulfilling work. So here is a look at the trailer.
I think if you unmute yourself, we'll be able to hear. We can't hear the audio, Jenny. Jamae, can y'all hear the audio?
No, I cannot.
Jenny, we still have no audio.
Oh.
Do you have a link, Tiffany, that you could share it?
Sorry about that, everyone, for the technical difficulties. Let me try that again.
If you want, you can send it to me, Jenny, and I'll share it too.
Okay. Let me send that to you.
It looks amazing. I can't wait to listen.
Here we go.
Sorry about that, everyone.
And it's
We will get that back and running. Yes.
Okay. Here we go.
As a kid jumping around.
Let me share my screen real quick. Could y'all hear that?
Yep.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
As a kid jumping around from shelter to shelter, I would go through like these bouts of depression.
Growing up, my neighborhood wasn't the safest. It's a lot of crime that goes on. It's a lot of drug addicts and a lot of drug dealers.
I work 2 full-time jobs, 80 hours a week, and I don't want to be stuck in that cycle just so I can help out with the rent and pay the bills.
I don't want to feel like I had to move out of my community because I can't succeed in my community.
I'll be going on an RV with 2 strangers.
Oh my gosh!
Cross country.
On a road trip for 3 weeks.
Interviewing people who started off with similar backgrounds like myself.
Wow. Oh.
And they're going to show us what they did to actually pull them through. That was...
I get a chance to ask some difficult questions, some things that I may be struggling with.
To actually see somebody that came from a situation similar to myself. Instead of going to drugs, instead of starting other things, he used that energy and put it towards something else.
Being a Latina in the finance industry, it's kind of like, if she can do it, then I can do it.
A lot of places I worked in IT, I'm usually the only person of color. To see where he's at, man, it just feels great.
If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. Whatever you do, don't stop.
You came to us as planes with the engines and the wings intact, but every plane needs a runway to take off. All we do is provide opportunity. You do the changing.
Sometimes that's all you need is just the opportunity, somebody to invest in you and say, hey, I see something different in you.
I was one of those opportunity youth that just needed an opportunity. I just needed a chance to change my projected outcome.
Some of these interviews like echo in my mind before I go to sleep.
Part of our responsibility is to help the employers understand that our communities are filled with untapped potential.
You are representative of the communities you came from, and now through your example, people that have grown up in the same community see that they have options.
The trip isn't even over and I already have a different outlook on life and ways I want to approach different situations.
I can't wait to see what all the other interviews will be like.
Y'all were not lying about it's going to be a change from the city. Like,
I want to come home with as much information as I can.
I want to see where else this road leads me. How else can I transform?
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sorry. Still playing the next one. There you go.
So you can watch that entire series online for free on our website. But right now, I'm really excited to introduce you, our 3 road trippers from the film, who we have with us here today, Tahim, Yasmin, and Denise. Hi, you all.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you all doing?
Good. Very good.
Yeah, pretty well. Yep, pretty good. I'm hyped.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have you back. We can just start by introducing yourselves. Denise, we can start with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Denise. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I come from the Workforce Development Program Year Up here in New York City. Currently, I'll tell you a little bit more about myself later, about my journey, but I'm currently working in finance now, so very exciting.
Thank you, Denise. Tahim, what about you?
Everybody, my name is Tahim. I'm from New York in the Bronx, and I'm from Perscolas, the Workforce Development Program, and it's been an amazing journey I got to take part of with Roadtrip Nation, and you'll hear more about it soon. I'm looking forward to sharing with y'all.
Thanks, Tahim. And Yasmin?
Hi, everybody. I'm Yasmin. I'm from Chicago, and I'm also from the Chicago Workforce Development Program. And I'm currently still in the healthcare field, and I'm so excited to tell you guys more about my journey.
Thanks so much, Yasmin. We're so excited to have you all here. Can you each talk about a little bit about what these last months have been like for you? And Yasmin, we can start with you this time.
Alrighty. So yeah, in these last few months, I have definitely experienced the feeling of not really being able to have a good, stable job. So currently, right now, I'm sorry to.
Yasmin, I'm sorry to interrupt. We want to really hear you, and we're having trouble. Can you turn it up a little bit?
Are you able to hear me now?
That's much better.
That's better.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry about that. So, yes, in these last months, it's been a little hectic. Again, I have felt the accesses of not really having a stable job. So right now I do work from home, which I'm not complaining about. However, I've just been noticing that it's been a little hard to get resources when it comes down to taking care of business with everybody not being in office. So, yeah.
Yeah. And what about you, Denise? How have these last few months been for you?
It's been kind of a whirlwind of emotions, definitely, working from home has given me a lot more freedom to spend a little bit more time with my family, and also, definitely learning my role, which I had started back in June. So, it gave me a lot of flexibility and a lot of also thinking self-reflection on, everything that I had gone through just a couple of months prior, like the year prior, we had gone on an amazing road trip all together. And now we were all in our, small dwellings. And, it really made me feel grateful for everything that I had. And it made me feel grateful for, having my family along beside me too, because, during a pandemic, unfortunately, so many bad things affected so many people. So just to have everyone close to me, you know, doing well and being healthy, maybe more appreciative of what I have currently in my life. So, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
self-reflecting and definitely, you know, looking forward to what I can do, you know, hopefully once the pandemic is dwindling down.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And Tahim, what have you been up to in the last few months?
Hey, I would say very similar to Denise. I've just been kind of keeping my head down and focusing on my role. You know, being help desk at 2U, it has been a bit easier to transition to full remote work because in IT, you're trying to make sure everyone's connected, you're hosting Zoom meetings. But I've actually been approached by a lot of my friends like, hey, what can I do to get a job? I was working in the restaurant industry and it's just not working out for me. Or I was doing like something else that's been closed down since the pandemic. And besides pointing them to like Europe or Prescolas or any other workforce development program that's in their immediate area, it's kind of been a bit difficult because like people aren't like we're approaching like a year working from home, so people are kind of fatigued now at this point. They're like, I just want something that works. So it's been more of just trying to find out what works as an aid to help the people around me and not only keep their spirits up, but kind of motivate them like, hey, you can get into this program. This is available. I noticed on Facebook there's this group, you know? So it's been trying to keep up with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about the programs that you all are in and talk a little bit about the workforce development programs that had an impact on you and how did that help you in moving forward in the workforce. Denise, let's start with you.
Oh man, like talk about impact because first, if it wasn't for Europe, I don't think I would be here where I am now. It all started when I was working, you know, just jobs here and there, odd jobs, and you know, in retail and trying to juggle things to make ends meet. So I actually found about Europe on a newspaper, out of all things. Like most people find out about these workforce development programs through referrals or word of mouth, and I just so happened to open up one of those free newspapers that they give out in the city. And I was looking at the job section and I saw Europe, and it was the closest thing to what I could see because there were so many programs in medical fields, but I was always interested in finance, and it just turned out that they had this financial operations section. And so I'm like, okay, let me just apply and like fill out a survey online. And then next thing you know, I was there for an interview, and then I started off, you know, taking classes. So Europe is a 1-year commitment, and it's 6 months of learning and development classes in person, and then 6 months of an internship with no guarantee of a, you know, full-time role, but at least you get that on your resume and you get the experience. So for me, you know, being there for a whole year, I had really just focused on, you know, working and, you know, trying to pay bills and all that stuff. So for me, it was kind of like a risk, like, okay, well, you know, I know this is for my future and I am very optimistic that I'll give it my all. And, you know, hopefully once the internship comes around, it's like, you know, maybe there could be a possibility for, you know, a full-time role. And if not, maybe I can, you know, at least get something out of the experience, you know, recommendations, meeting new people, something that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And yeah, long story short, I became an intern for 6 months at Newburgh Berman. And then I became a contractor, and then I was offered, thankfully, a full-time role. So since then, I actually started even a different role within the firm back in June. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's been a whirlwind of adventures here. And yeah, I'm just adapting and learning more as I continue within, you know, the firm, the team, and yeah, who knows? Who would have known? Right?
Yeah, thank you for sharing your experience. Yasmin, what about you? What was the impact for you in the program that you were part of?
Yeah, so for the Chicago Cook workforce, it was like a dream come true. I seen this school that I wanted to go to for a medical program, and I could not afford it. So when my grandmother got sick, I just took care of her how I knew how because I had prior training to my other grandma being a CNA. But when I got down and I was just like, I felt like I couldn't go back to a 4-year university, without feeling the pressure of having to be great in so many words. So I went ahead and I just gave the Chicago Workforce a shot, and I was accepted. And I was like, okay, this is a start. And I got into the CNA program and I passed. And then I got into the phlebotomy program and I passed. And I'm like, okay, I'm good at this. And I saw the difference, instead of sitting in the classroom setting, I'm still in the classroom setting, but it was more so hands-on. It was like more catered to the person and not more catered to the paperwork in so many words.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I appreciated it because it got me, not got me, but it gave me the chance to actually see what that field was like that I wanted to get into. And it also gave me a bigger passion to be in that field because now that I'm training, I'm going home practicing. And, who knew that I would have to be brought into a situation where I have to take care of another family member. So, now I got the credentials to do that. And I'm also in the process of becoming a wife. I'm engaged. So that gives me a
congratulations.
Thank you. A chance to actually share these things with my soon-to-be husband, And as we've talking about planning a family, I have these resources that I can use and I could give to my children or possibly to my god kids or, cousins or aunts, uncles, anybody. It's unlimited. So I love the fact that I was able to get that experience because now I can tell someone about it firsthand. And it was doable and it was definitely helpful. So I appreciate it. I love it. And, currently I'm still a CNA. But I am in a process of going back to school. So this way I can finish up my chapter of being a PCT and crossing my fingers. Hopefully I can go back to college and become an RN. So we'll see.
Awesome. All good things. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, Yasmin. That's awesome.
No problem.
And Tahim, what about you? Let's hear a little bit about the program that you were part of.
Well, I would say Perscolas is an IT and kind of like a technical training workforce development program. And I've always had a love of music. And before I was doing IT, I was actually a security guard. And I was expecting my second child, and there was a lot of ups and downs to even starting Perscolas. So there was an uphill battle from the time I decided to enroll. But the impact that it's had on me, I've been able to almost be that annoying older brother or family member that's like, hey, I see that you're getting tired of doing the same thing every day. I see that you're getting tired of going in the same circle. Why don't you try something different? Why don't you try this program? Like, it's given me that sense of optimism that I didn't have before. Mm-hmm. It's taught me how to be resourceful. And I've even realized that more so with Roadtrip Nation because we have so much in common. So everyone's story, every single person you speak to can be a resource in some way, shape, or form. And it's taught me to appreciate everyone's story. And, it doesn't matter what skills you bring to the table. It's more so the willingness to learn that new skill. And that's what these workforce development programs are about. They're like, hey, we got this bunch of cool careers and different life paths that people have gone through, and we have these leaders here that you can speak to. Why don't you just take a chance on us like we'll take on you? And it kind of broke me out of my shell because I was always like, man, that's not going to work. Or if it's not upfront money or payment, I'm not, I don't think it's going to pan out. But I took that first chance with Perscolas, and then one thing led to another, and I wound up working with Roadtrip Nation, and I was like, wow, and everyone there is very like-minded, and each one teach one. And I met beautiful people like Karen, Denise, and Yasmin, and Mike, and you too, Jenny. And it's just been it's just been ongoing from there. So the impact has been extremely positive, and it's been one that's made me want to give back. Continue to.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Tahim. My heart feels full. I love catching up with you three so much. But I would love to bring a familiar face for you all to have a conversation. We're going to have Karen Norrington Reeves join us, the CEO of the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, who's featured in the documentary. And then
Hey,
also
Karen.
joining her,
Miss
hi,
Karen.
Karen.
Yes.
And also joining Karen, we're so excited to talk to Mike Temple, the director of the Gulf Coast Workforce Board and Workforce Solutions, who we have been working with for a regional road trip in Texas that will take place later in the year. Welcome you both. I would love to just give the stage for the five of you to have a conversation. So I will hop off in a little bit, but yeah, if you all have questions for each other, please feel free to ask. Karen, we can start with you.
Great. I'm so glad to hear you guys are doing well. It's good to see each of you. So I have a couple questions for you. One of the things we talk about that young people need most is a caring adult in their lives to provide some support and some guidance. And so based on your experience, what advice would you give to mentors, caring adults, role models, parents, to help support the young adults in their lives? What advice would you give?
Yeah. I would say for anyone who wants to be a role model in anyone's life, number one, you have to be honest. You don't get nowhere with lying to anyone. And when you sugarcoat it or, shelter someone too long, when life hits, it hits for real. So I would say being honest is definitely key. And also don't be afraid to be empathetic. You have to be able to understand where someone is coming from in order to really give them the best advice. So you have to be able to be honest with them and also be understanding and empathetic to, just relate to them on a more personal level.
Tahim, Denise, what are your thoughts?
I would say try to talk more about the times you messed up and turned it around than the times when things just went right. Because there's so much of a lesson in that. And 9 times out of 10, when I know as a mentee, I usually look at the mentor like, oh, you got everything in the bag already. So everything you say is like, your word is gold. But if you tell me about the times where you weren't unsure of yourself and the times you really messed up, I would remember those more and I would look for lessons deeper in that. And I don't think that just applies to me. I think a lot of young people need it like that because, like when we're young, when I was a knucklehead, I was like, I don't want to hear that. But it was more interesting when there was like a problem that was solved, so to speak, in the story that was being told.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I totally agree with you, Tahim. There's been times when a mentor will just, maybe tell me a little bit more about herself, and then maybe she was in a totally different field than where she is now. So I'm just like, oh wait, really? How'd you figure out that you really wanted to be, working here specifically? And sometimes they're still not sure about the next step. Like they're still, they're kind of giving me advice, and then they're also thinking about, well, this is not where it ends here. Like you could always branch out elsewhere. So don't be afraid of, telling me that you might have an interest in something else, or, maybe instead of finance, you might want to do technology with finance, or, maybe work in nonprofits. So I think it's very important for mentors to kind of have like a very honest and I guess maybe transparent relationship where you can tell them almost not everything, but just tell them, not be afraid of where you would want your career to go next, because they could also have maybe connections in that other field, or maybe you even know somebody from your workforce development program who might know somebody that other person would be interested in learning more about. So I think that's very, very important to be.
It's just like Yasmin said, don't sugarcoat it.
Don't sugarcoat it. Yeah.
Give it to me straight. Thank you, guys. I thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty and your candor in sharing that. Thank you.
No problem.
I got just one question for the three of you, and it's a pleasure to see you again. When we got together a little bit before this, and I'm just really curious. So, did taking the road trip change your mind about anything? When you started, you had an idea about what it was going to be, and when you got to the end, what was different?
Man, I would say personally for me, what was different in the end had to be my personal attitude. Like the way that I dealt with things. I learned that your biggest enemy can tend to be yourself. So sometimes if you don't really try to fix what's necessary within you, you can actually stop yourself from doing a lot and conquering a lot of things. Because we kind of underestimate ourselves sometimes when we're not together. So I kind of learned how to address my posture when I'm brought to different things, and how to think. I've always been optimistic and thought outside the box. But I would say this road trip really gave me another level of optimism, and it applied so much pressure to me because now it's like these things. So if there's endless possibilities, just go for it. Don't count yourself out before you actually try it. So that's what it changed for me.
That's great. Tahim?
I think two things. One, I doubted how incredibly hard it is to share personal things with the world and just people in general, and especially how much harder it is when you're in front of a camera. And it taught me like I was like, yeah, this is come on, this is nothing. And then when it's on, you gotta you gotta turn it on, but at the same time remain authentic, and that's definitely difficult. But besides that, I would say it changed how I felt about opening up. Like I always felt like it's a harder thing to do with others, and you gotta feel someone out first. But if you're yourself from beginning to end, and you're not worried about what they see in you, because I guess I was still coming into my career in IT, and I still felt like I didn't have that much to bring to the table in terms of my experience, the lessons that I had learned in life, even now still. And I had to, after taking that road trip, I learned that like my story is impactful. Anything that like I said, everything any one of us has gone through can be impactful to someone else. We just got to be willing to share that. And going on that road trip broke down that barrier for me. It was like, man, this is me. You're gonna get it one way or another, So
that's great.
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah, for me, it's before the road trip, I always felt, even while I was, in the workforce development program, I always felt like something was missing in my life in terms of what I thought would make my parents proud. So I always thought that the road was always to get, you know, graduate high school, get a college degree, get a job in that field, and basically proving to the world that yeah, I did it because I have a degree now, and this is what I wanted, and now I got it. And for me, it kind of didn't happen that way, obviously, but for me, it was kind of like, all right, I felt like my parents weren't proud. I felt like a bit of a failure just because I didn't have a degree, and I didn't, I ended up working odd jobs, but at the same time, during my road trip, like it really opened up to me that not everyone always follows a single path. Everyone's life always turns into a different direction, and sometimes that could be for the better. Like life's a journey, and you should accept it. And for me, it took it took a long time for me to accept where it was and why I thought I wasn't where I was because of my, I guess, family circumstances. So once the road trip came out and I actually saw it, and while I was living in it, it really made me reflect on, okay, well, you don't have to be successful just because you have a degree. Like you can be successful in so many other ways. And that's what really made me change my outlook. Like once I was on the road trip and speaking to all these wonderful professionals who came from different backgrounds, it really made me realize that, I shouldn't be embarrassed. I shouldn't just think that life is just a one-way trip. It could be, made up of many different adventures, and even an obstacle that you may see as an obstacle could be a gift. So it made me very fortunate for what I have now. And, it's so funny because my parents, like my family, once they saw the documentary, they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, you know, we were always proud of you no matter what you did. And it was all, yeah, it was just amazing and wholesome. So.
Well, Denise, Tahim, Yasmin, it's an honor and a privilege for me to talk with you. You know, I'm an old guy, you can tell. So I sometimes think about what's the world going to be like with the young people coming up, and you guys inspire me. You make me think it's going to be all right. So thank you very much.
Thank
The-
you. That
the-
means a lot to me.
Yeah, the thing I think about with you all, and you know, I got a special thing for y'all. I just do. I spent half the day. Mike, they interviewed me, and I'm telling you, I did not want to go back to work. I just wanted to hang with them the whole day. It was just, but there's so much wisdom in you three, and so much power in your experiences and in your words and in your perspective, how you view the world and how you see hope and possibility. And I am just, you know, it's really just been an honor for me to be a part of this project and to get to know you and to stay in contact with you. Yasmin, you owe me a phone call. But you know, the thing that I think about is, you know, the lessons that you've learned on this path, on this journey so far. And I wonder how those lessons come up for you again in your current life. You know, there were a lot of lessons you learned on that road trip. And so Tahim, that vulnerability, right? We talked about that. Denise, not having any shame about, you know, your background, your upbringing, and recognizing, seeing a Latina who, you know, looks just like you and has the same background, excelling in her career, right? Yasmin, moving beyond grief and some of the trappings of the community of Harvey, right? And being able to excel despite that. So I just wonder about if you could just share a little bit about the lessons that you learned from the road trip and how you see those lessons coming up for you again in your current life.
I actually have Karen, I have something recent. I'm trying to get my mom into Preschoolers right now, and she's like, I don't think I can do this. The math, I've never been that good at math, and it's like not my strongest suit. And I've been trying on my own. I've been looking at resources. I've been doing like tutoring, but it doesn't seem to be working out. And one of the lessons that I learned on the road trip was to like never give up. Like I didn't like bugs for the life of me. Now I'm a city boy, and going out there, I was freaking out. I was like, no, I can't do this, man. And I had to push through it. And it's the same. It's not the same exact situation, but it's a similar lesson. I had to like tell my mom. Even when I was doing Preschoolers, there was times where some of the work was more challenging, and I was like, you know, you really got to think about how bad you want to grow, how bad you want a career in tech or a career in anything that you want. When you're up against something difficult, you think more about the end result, and that makes it a little easier. And instead of like looking at a whole lesson, break it into smaller sub lessons. Like today I will learn how to do this problem instead of I will learn how to do this kind of math, period. You know, small chunks. So that's something I've definitely I've learned from the road trip and applied.
Denise or Yasmin?
Yeah, so from the road trip, I have learned how not to be afraid to start over again. Man, when we came back, I had one more class to do, just one more session. And then the pandemic said no. So I had to wait till the school opened back up till she was waiting, you know, ready and able to take people back in and finish up the courses. So I really had to be courageous not to be afraid to start over, because now I don't remember the material, you know, so much stuff didn't happen since the last time I sat in the classroom versus coming back into the building. So I had to be afraid not to start over again. And also I had to be afraid of the non-traditional way of things, because then I got put with the pressure again. Everybody's like, go back to college. Like, why are you going back to a trade? Go back to college. Now's the time. And I had to get it made up in my mind. Like, Yasmin, this is not everybody's life. It's yours. Take as much time as you need. There's no time limit. So I really had to, you know, tell myself, don't be afraid to start over, but also take your time. Do it at Yasmin's pace, not at someone else's pace. Because you'll always mess up if you try to, you know, fix your life to make everybody else happy. You'll never be happy. So that's one thing I learned. Just don't be afraid to start over and just give it your all.
Yeah. For me, it's definitely to, enjoy the now instead of worrying about and stressing out the future or the looking at the past because the past has already been done instead of, worrying over like, oh, I should have done this or I wish this never happened. I wouldn't be in this place. It's about taking all the negativity out and just being, grateful for what you have now and thinking of, what you can do to maybe just um, make a better future for yourself or just learn how to take a deep breath and not stress about the future too much and just reflecting on what you have. And for me also, another thing that I learned on the road trip was appreciating my net worth, my network, because you never know who you'll come across. And even during the road trip, we met so many amazing people and, now we have so many amazing mentors. So it's really about, connecting with people. And now as an alumni from Year Up, I'm definitely, more than open to answering questions from, people in the program and kind of doing even a small mentoring myself of, students who have just started the program or have just, started interning somewhere. So it's very exciting to be able to lift as I climb, which is, Europe's motto. And, definitely continuing doing that just because on the road trip, I've met so many people who have done the same for others. So that makes me want to give back and, look forward to it.
It is so good to see you guys again. I think I'm going to kick it back over to Jenny.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Karen and Mike,
so much,
for
Karen
the
and Mike.
questions. I'll have you two stay on, but Denise, Yasmin, Tahim, like Karen said, there's so much power in your words and your experiences. Thank you so much for lending new insights into, what you've been up to and your experiences to us today. We appreciate so much your time and just catching up with you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much
You
for having us,
guys,
Jenny.
thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
Karen. Thank you, Mike.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So,
You guys.
So for this next conversation, we're going to dig in how workforce boards can further help their communities right now. So I'd love to bring back Roadtrip Nation CEO Mike Mariner and NAWB's President Ron Painter. The theme of this year's Close It Summit is Shift Has Happened, and that's certainly been felt by workforce boards across the country. Work that was once largely done in-person services has had to shift to digital. Valuable experiences like apprenticeships and job shadowing have been limited. The big question on our minds now is how can we get through to unemployed or underemployed people and help them build valuable social capital through digital experiences? So Mike, I will throw it over to you to continue the conversation and I will be back a little bit later.
Awesome. Well, I feel like that was the perfect primer for this conversation, or the meat. This is just the side dish, but as Karen said, there's so much we can learn. And Jenny, and I think if there's one thing that I feel like we keep learning over and over again with Roadtrip Nation is that the vulnerability piece, the powerful vulnerability piece, and trying to think about like how can we make workforce development more human-centered and more vulnerable and less transactional, and can we leverage the power of storytelling to as a tool to kind of make this with what's happening in the world. And we're hearing this in all the work that we do, is that youth are so hungry for stories of honesty and stories of resiliency. They don't want to see your LinkedIn profile. That's just intimidating. Oh, great, you're the vice president of such and such thing. They want to know, what was the tough stuff you went through? Did you have to deliver coffee? Did you have to pay off student loans? How can we kind of reimagine what, say, an informational interview is in more of a model of human-centered storytelling to create real relationships and not only empowerment, but also social capital, which we can get into in a second. But, we wanted to start off this session by just like seeing how you all are doing in this new world and how you're pivoting, and obviously like pivoting to digital. And that's a big way that we've been honored to work with you all, is to try to like help you all create more digital solutions and storytelling assets that we've kind of been scrappy and aggregated from Roadtrip and tried to work with you all on. But how are you meeting this moment and trying to leverage the new, leaning into this virtual moment and trying to meet youth where they're at. Like, what have you learned, and you know, what can we learn from you? Any of you, Karen or Mike or whoever feels inspired.
Karen, you want to go first?
I was about to say, Mike, I'll defer to you. So this is what happens when you're on a panel with a bunch of gentlemen. They say ladies first. So I would say, the point about meeting this moment is, these are tough times, right? So a couple things that we're doing, I'll talk a little bit about us as a system and also about our team. One, like everybody else, we pivoted and made all of our services virtual, our training programs to the extent that it was possible, just the ability to access our services, to be able to enroll virtually. All of that was new to us. And I was very proud we were able to do it within just a couple of weeks, actually, once the shutdown began. Increased our social media, our outreach, our community engagement. We're doing a lot with the pandemic in terms of contact tracing. We facilitated the hiring of over 700 contact tracers and contact tracing supervisors within our region, and actually actively recruited youth. We've partnered with you all to launch our first ever youth workforce development portal. We never had a portal that was specifically focused on the youth community. We had our workforce site, our workforce development site was focused on connecting people to agencies, and we certainly had youth agencies identified, but the portal that we created with you all, or rather you created and we customized, is just really aimed at that market and is exciting and interesting for young people. And I think, but for the pandemic, I don't know that we would have seen the real imperative for that as quickly as we did. And and then the other thing is we've done a ton of media. I've done a lot of speaking engagements and panels such as this, to really bring people into the work, and it's helped. I mean, we see such a spike every time we do some media engagement. We're also leaning into all of our youth organizations. We've trained them in using the toolkit and the curriculum on the workforce development site, the youth portal with Roadtrip Nation, and the curriculum that you created around informational interviewing. But there's still more, there's just still so much more to do. Here in Chicago, we've seen such an increase in crime that is being perpetrated by young adults because they have too much idle time on their hands and remote learning is not working. And so while we've risen to the moment, there's still so much more to do in order to really address the needs.
I think workforce boards throughout the country have done just exactly what Karen was saying. We have all had to pivot to a way to provide virtual service to any of our customers and all of the time. And that means online learning as well as just looking for work or talking to a counselor or those things. So, I'm always pleased to talk to Karen and others and hear that we're all kind of doing the same thing. I think, oh, great, we're all headed in the right direction, which is really good. We've done something similar with the contract tracing here in town, but we essentially created a community health job that involved contract tracing and also just providing information to people. And we recruited young people from the neighborhoods that they then worked as community health workers, which was something really special. I think, it's hard to reach anybody, but it's specifically hard to reach young people at a time like this, when everything is so up in the air and so different. And as Jenny said, shift happens. It's just, you have to really work at it. One of the things that we've been really lucky about is we had a local TV station, our ABC affiliate here in Houston, contact us and say, gee, we'd like to have you come on once a week with our reporter. And we started off on Facebook Live. We've now moved on to the regular television set and their app to talk about whatever we want to talk about. And we have reached more people. We've had 1 million viewers since we've been doing this since last April. And so that's a way that we've been able to connect with young people more than anything else. Because of course, young people aren't on Facebook, right? That's for us old guys. And that it's more the reaching out to people that I think is the hardest part. Because once we get in a relationship, as Karen's been talking about, there's so many things that we can do and so many ways we can help somebody look forward. It's like the road trippers we're talking about. Sometimes it's just a human contact and somebody to talk to and bounce ideas off of or express some frustrations with on the journey to a school or a particular job or something like that. So, you know, it's given us, this pandemic has given us a view of how we can deliver service in the future that, combined with personal interactions, hopefully that we get back to, is going to be a powerful way to reach a lot more people.
Mike, I think that's a really good and interesting point, because I think we can do things digitally, but I'd ask you both, Karen, Mike, as you think about, and somebody described this as the time. So if we think about how you delivered services before the time, and now as you look like to post the time, that human element, have you thought about how important that was, and do you start to rethink your strategies around that interaction, that human interaction, that conversation between whether it's the employer and your staff, or your staff and the job seeker? What are the kind of things you think about now?
Yeah, I would say we've always been focused on the human beings at the core of it. Even just in our business relations work has always been focused on discerning what the real need is, which you have to do by developing a relationship. But someone said something in a staff meeting about a week or so ago that has just stuck in my craw. And he said, I bet the majority of our career coaches could tell you more about WIOA regulations than they could about what it really takes to coach and advise people. And that went right. I mean, that got me. Like, because all I could think of was, he's right. He's right.
Yeah.
Despite all of the best efforts around, you can't, for people for whom it is not their intrinsic, sort of their reflexive nature to do the relationship building piece, you can't make them do that. And so it has made me think about what are the types of shifts necessary within our system in order to ensure that everything we do is about the human being first. And even with respect to the employer engagement, how can we better help inform them around what it is they need to do in order to have an environment that is human-centered, that recognizes the fact that, my daughter is going to come bursting through this door in any minute. My dog is going to come bursting through this door in any minute. And that has to be okay, because I'm not just an employee or a worker. I'm a mom, right? And I am working at home with kids who are learning at home. And so it seems like it took this awful experience to make people wake up and treat people humanely, right? And
yeah, we have a long way to go in that regard. Mike,
I was just gonna say amen to all of that. I think, going to this, where you're not in a big office where you've got a lot of people streaming in and you got a lot of, well, I got to process you and I got to move you from here to there. It's more about talking to somebody face to face. You realize how important that conversation and that relationship is in helping someone move along. And Karen, it's like we're the same person here. We've had the same conversation about, well, so yeah, you can talk about the regulations, you can talk about a procedure, but can you actually help this person think about a career? and a future. So we are thinking, we're rethinking about how we structure things, who we put where, how we're going to go forward engaging people, not only in person, because that will remain important, but how we can expand that, back it up, do it virtually first, and then invite somebody to come in, or see them first and then follow up with them virtually, and work on our own skill sets, so that we truly are looking at a human-centered approach to service.
And the other piece, Mike, excuse me for stepping on you there.
Okay.
The other piece is we have power, and collectively we are serving millions of people across the country. And the other piece is that part of why there is this great focus on rules and regulations is because that is what is put upon us. That's what we're measured against. That's what we're judged by. And so we have to use our collective voice. Ron, my friend, this is my rally, my clarion call to you as our fearless leader. We have to use our collective voice to get the legislators and others in power, the rule makers, to understand that every aspect of what we do is not going to be measured in a data point, right? And that there are these intangibles that matter even more than the volume of numbers. And that, I think, the storytelling, to Mike's point, helps to demonstrate that impact. And we have to get them to see those stories, to understand those stories, and to value those stories every bit as much as they do the number of people served and the cost per person served, right? Yep. So, all right, soapbox put away. I
think that's really important. I'm going to turn it back to Mike and Jenny, but Karen, it's part of what I was inspired as we visited eight regions, 8 places across the country last year to hear communities coming together, to hear communities asking themselves really hard questions about, what lies ahead and how prepared are we? And that's why I'm so excited as we're thinking about what Workforce Ahead Part 2 looks like, that we're teaming up with Roadtrip Nation, because it's the stories. It's the stories of that journey, as the young people mentioned, that it's a journey. And it's the stories of the journey that really become impactful and inspiring. And we had 3, Jenny, Mike, everybody, we had 3 really amazing coaches to help us understand how important the work is. So again, on behalf of all of us at NAWB, Mike, thank you, and Jimmy, for allowing us to participate.
Hey, this was an incredible session. Jenny, great job. All of you spoke to the heart, and everything you said is so true. Lots of excitement in the chat. We'll send out the video and share it broadly. And I know you're going to get a lot of attention from this session. Thank you so much. It was just really, really inspiring to see you, hear you, and be reminded why we're all in this work in the first place. So,
Thanks, everyone.
See you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Be well, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.